Madam Baker. Madam Baker, the mistress of the boarding house, one scarcely saw her by daylight, you know, at least as a suffering human creature. She had so wrapped herself in the memories of imaginary scenes and triumph to protect herself from the reality of her poverty, that she now no longer remembered her life as it had been in truth. Upstairs, in her bedroom, Madam Baker was preparing for bed. One felt that when she took off her dress at night, the act was like the undamming of Noah's flood. This enormous woman, with her thick and mottled face and neck, when she was fully painted and equipped for the sad and hopeless business of the day, looked, when static, like an effigy of one of the 7 deadly sins. Sworn by some meaningless importance, the figurehead of greed or envy, carried at the head of some purposeless procession. Her vast size gave her an unwieldy, lumbering gait, a shambling walk, so that she seemed always to be in at least 4 places at once. And this added to the fact that her animation was such that she appeared to be not one being, but an increasing multitude, gave those confronted with her the feeling that it was impossible to escape from her, that they must inevitably be run over. So, bobbling and plunging, as if she was a long line of sea elephants facing the surge of waves, she faced the poverty of her days. Her eyes, when fully mascaraed, were deliberately roguish, but had at the same time a look of hard and deliberate greed, which was borne out by the whole contour of her face. But now, alone in her room, the paint washed away from eyes, cheek, and lips. Her poor, fat, flabby cheeks were pathetic. They drooped in a sad and dispirited way. Her eyes were no longer greedy, but they were the eyes of a very old child. They were even kind. And the sadness, because she had been robbed by cruel elders of something for which she had hoped. These eyes contained nothing of bitterness. You would never have known this old and bewildered child for the same being who, protected from the world by a glistening coat of paint and pretense, confronted poverty, the cruel-eyed day, the small, mouth-fretting worries of each hour with such gallantry. Indeed, her being by night and her being by day might not have sprung from the same original stem. By day, she held her head in such a way that she might have been tossing it when the wind changed and transfixed her. When she greeted acquaintances of whom she did not approve, but whom she wished to impress, she held her right hand high above her head, much in the way of a person who is teaching a dog to beg for sugar. She is much addicted to stateliness, you see, and often confessed that she could imagine herself standing at the top of a marble staircase, receiving, although the identity of the guest to be received was always left in question. You ought to have been an ambassadress, dear. her friends would say to her, admiringly. And of course, you know, nobody knew with any certainty what had been Madame Baker's origin, or who her husband might have been. If questioned about the latter, she would answer vaguely, "Oh, somebody very important, dear, in Vienna," although I'm not allowed to say what. And then she would remain silent for a moment, seeing in her mind's eye the original of the photograph hidden in a drawer upstairs, the glistening being with the spreading waistcoat and that moist fly trap for little insignificant fly-by-night, the luxuriant tropical vegetation springing from his upper lip. Poor bird. It was those women, you know. Oh, well.
However, I would like to
Well, don't you remember me?
No.
Children have the most unreliable memory.
Well, what are you going to be when you grow up? But what are you going to be when you grow up?
A genius. I remember this lady, and I remember distinctly saying a genius.
Children have the most unreliable memory.
When I was on TV, interview was in London, face to face, I received 200 fan letters. I am a very shy person, but I was never shy in front of camera. They call me difficult because I refuse to be taught my job by a lot of little pipsqueaks. I am simply alive, and they don't like people to be alive. Nobody has ever been more alive than I. I am like an unpopular electric eel in a pond full of flatfish. You ask me why I wear long dresses. Well, you wouldn't believe in God if I did.
It does scare upon the dawn, full Eric and the preacher's honor. Grown old and stiff this modern dress, adds monstrously to my distress. The gout within a wooden heel is very hard to bear. I feel then crushed into a buckled shoe that clings your heels double through. And when I walk in Down's green and weeping think on what has been, then wipe one eye, the other sees the plums and cherries on the trees. Small bird-quick women pass me by with sleeves that flutter airily, and baskets blazing like fire with rotting fruits of my desire. Plum sunburnt as the king of Spain, gold-cheeked as any Nubian, with strawberries all goldly freckled, hair as fat as brushes and as speckled. Pursue them, yes, and squeeze it here. Please spare, forsake her one, my dear. Be off, sir. Go and steal your own. Alas, poor scarab on the lawn. Trees rend his ruffles, stretch a twig, tear off his stateless periwig.
Unless the grey prison bars of the rain were so thick that we must remain indoors. We sat in the porch of Renishaw, on the north side of the dark and shadowed house. There was nothing to look at, excepting the far brightness of brown cornfields and some magnificent trees whose shadows seemed always to be upon our hearts. Indeed, we were like people who walk forever under the shadow of timber
Outside are the large and sunny gardens, warm and clouds of odor and color, and leaves so like evenings like the honeymakers, and what
On the south side of Renishaw, that great house, were the huge and dreamlike gardens, haunted, where the flowers sometimes were busy as the dreams of youth, or they were laughing with all the wisdom of maturity. Why did we find ourselves walking in a tomb full of dead and frozen things? We who were young should have been flying across the grass, while the dews from some brighter heaven than we know falls upon our heads, or listening to music, that vast and inevitable structure. I know of nothing more melancholy than the dying fall of music beside some waterfall, where the statue from some greater civilization reminds us of the beauty that is no longer with us, but which remains buried for a while beneath the earth. But ours was a world of shadow and unmistakable unmistakable shadow. Although the passing sound of that far-off music among the ruins was forever. Was forever. With